Hello and welcome to Lunar Persuasion Astrology. Today we're looking at the three major transits of 2025. We've got Saturn going into Pisces, we've got Jupiter going into Gemini, and then the nodal axis, Rahu and Ketu, are going to shift into the signs of Aquarius and Leo. If you know what your ascendant is, you can follow along. I will do a breakdown of each transit for your ascendant. We're going to look at Saturn first. Saturn is going to go into Pisces on March 29th. It is the planet of delay and restriction and limitation, boundaries, and his transit lasts through a sign for about 2.5 years. So as I'm recording this, Saturn is in Aquarius. He's going direct and headed towards Pisces, and then about 30 years to go around the entire zodiac. Now, Pisces is the last sign. It's the 12th sign of the zodiac, and it's also associated with 12th house matters. It's a water sign. It's ruled by Jupiter, and it deals with expansion and growth, being limitless and not having boundaries, which is pretty much the opposite of what Saturn's nature is. It's very restrictive. It's all about boundaries. So Saturn's methodical and precise nature is going to try to bring structure and order into a space that thrives on expanding and letting go, not holding on. So I've kind of described this as Pisces is turning Saturn from a rigid frame into more of an elastic band. It's where the boundaries are being stretched, they're expanding to their limits, and the transformations are on a much, much bigger scale. So the last time we saw Saturn in Sidereal Pisces was back in 1995, and I pulled up the transit, and Saturn entered Pisces on June 2nd, 1995. So I wanted to look at some news headlines or some events and things that took place during that time because it's a really great way to gauge how this transit is going to be. And whenever you have a Saturn entering in a new sign, it is technically a Saturn return for that sign from its transit 30 years prior. So let's look at a couple of things I thought were interesting that matched up this theme of restriction and limitation brought by Saturn, but in this limitless way in Pisces. A tech revolution began with the early days of the internet and the dot-com boom between 1994 and 1997. So this was a start of transforming how we work and communicate. Really the expansion of the internet was taking communications, which is an air sign quality, and Saturn is an air planet. He represents the element of air. So it's very social and involves communication and sharing information. Think of like the radio, the airwaves, how information is transmitted. And so the internet really expanded those limitations. You can see how Pisces' expansive nature there is seen. Also in 1994, Amazon was founded. And we already know what that's going to lead to. And so we saw the birth of online shopping, and it has transformed the way that we buy and sell things forever. In addition to Amazon, the internet goes mainstream. So I actually don't know if this still exists, but the Netscape browser launched somewhere between 94 and 1995. And that was a web browser that made the internet accessible for everyday people. So now all of a sudden the internet was super accessible, and it really just expanded those boundaries to the people, which Saturn is the people. Also, there were new rules for international business and global connections that expanded global trade with the creation of the World Trade Organization in 1995. Again, taking these boundaries and expanding them and seeing that growth. So as Saturn approaches Pisces currently, this is a major completion of a 30-year cycle. And as Saturn gets closer and closer to Pisces, we can see this subtle shift in energy and can start to predict how some of these issues will play out. Currently, as we wrap up this year, 2024, and head into 2025, let's look at a couple of topics that are queuing up for this transit. So these trends represent a massive global transformation, just like the significant changes we saw in the mid 1990s. So clearly, we are in an AI revolution. Artificial intelligence is completely reshaping how we work, how we communicate, how we solve problems. And then there's also remote work, AI integration, and job models are transforming traditional employment styles. So this has a lot to do with this last year of Rahu transiting through Pisces and Ketu through Virgo. So now with Saturn coming in and Rahu moving out later in the year, there is a shift from being obsessed with all this newness, the newness of it all, to the need for structure and limitation on this massively expansive scale. Also, Saturn deals with matters of society and the people. So there is a social restructuring underway, major shifts in how we view social systems, political structures, and collective responsibility. They're all possible with this transit. So, just to kind of recap, Saturn puts pressure on the areas of life where he is transiting in your chart and the houses that he aspects. So, this can be painful if you're not on a truthful path. Saturn is not a planet of action, but rather a planet of force, and he administers that corrective force where he sees you have strayed off course. So, this challenge comes when there is a realization that it is up to your self effort and hard work to make the necessary gains. All right, so let's look at Aries ascendant and Saturn going into Pisces. This is your 12th house. So Saturn is remodeling your house of expenses and solitude. This is a transit that can leave you feeling isolated and a bit secluded, but that's okay. This is a time for internalizing and remodeling from the inside out. It's not a time to be on the world stage. Embrace the flowing energies of Pisces and let the solitude happen and find peace within. Saturn is preparing you for a first house transit that will ultimately remodel your entire self image. So use this next 2.5 year transit to really connect with letting go and being one with something bigger than yourself. I can tell you right now that Saturn has been in my 12th house since it's been in Aquarius, and all of this is true. So it's been a really wonderful time. And I think if you take that piece of wisdom, then it will also be a really good time for you as well. Now I'm looking at the fire signs first. So for Leo ascendant, this is in your 8th house. So for all the fire signs, Saturn and Pisces is going to be in a moksha house. So it's going to be a transformative time. So for Leo ascendant, this is Saturn in Pisces in your 8th house. Saturn is remodeling your house of shared resources, intimacy, and your transformative experiences. So this transit might feel like an invasion into your fears and vulnerabilities, bringing up really intense emotions and maybe hidden patterns. But it's time to embrace the opportunity to release those old emotional attachments and re examine your deepest fears that may be blockers for your growth and even your financial independence. Saturn is here to put pressure on your insecurities and help rebuild an understanding of trust, partnership, and personal power. So, this is really big for you, Leo. For Sagittarius, Saturn in Pisces is your 4th house. So Saturn is remodeling your house of home, private life, and your emotional foundations because the 4th house is where you make emotional connections. This transit may bring significant changes to your domestic life, potentially involving your mother or a motherly figure, and also could be a time for home renovations or maybe even just a deep restructuring of your sense of personal security because the 4th house is where you feel the most secure. You might actually, it's where you feel the most insecure, but it's where you're holding all of your securities. So you might feel a strong urge to create more stability in your personal space, potentially dealing with family responsibilities or healing old emotional wounds. Saturn wants to help you build a more solid and authentic emotional foundation that aligns with your values. All right, let's look at the Earth ascendant. So this will be Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. This Saturn and Pisces transit is going to be through your karma houses. So let's look at Taurus. This will be an 11th house transit for you. Saturn is remodeling your house of friendships, community, and collective goals. This transit will challenge your social connections and group affiliations, asking you to critically examine your network and even your long-term aspirations. You might find yourself pruning friendships that no longer serve your growth or restructuring your approach to community involvement. It's a time to align your social circles with your most authentic self, potentially reducing quantity for the sake of meaningful, supportive connections. Saturn in the 11th house is a big transit. It's potential for big wins as well for you, Taurus. So that's really, really awesome. For Virgo ascendant, this will be a 7th house transit. Saturn is remodeling your house of partnerships and one-on-one relationships. So this transit brings a serious approach to your personal and professional partnerships, demanding maturity, commitment, and realistic expectations. You may experience challenges in relationships that force you to grow, potentially ending connections that lack depth or restructuring existing partnerships on more solid ground. It's a powerful time for learning about true companionship, balance, and having a mutual respect. Capricorn ascendant, this is a Saturn transit in your 3rd house. Saturn is remodeling your house of communication, learning, and your immediate environment. This transit will bring structure and discipline to your thought processes, your communication style, and your social interactions, especially with siblings, cousins, and closer family members. You might find yourself becoming more methodical in your learning, potentially taking formal classes or seriously studying a subject that you're interested in. Your relationships with siblings or neighbors could undergo significant restructuring, and this is emphasizing clear and responsible communication between them, with them. Let's look at the air ascendant. So for Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, this Saturn transit is going to be in your Artha house. So for Gemini ascendant, this is a 10th house transit. Saturn is remodeling your career, your public reputation, and your life's direction. This transit brings a serious approach to your professional life, potentially challenging you to build a more authentic and sustainable career path. You might experience setbacks, but ultimately they'll lead to more meaningful professional growth, restructuring your public image, and long term goals. It's a time to take responsibility for your career choices and build a reputation based on genuine expertise. For Libra ascendant, this is a Saturn transit in your 6th house. So Saturn is remodeling your house of daily work, health, and personal service. This transit demands a disciplined approach to your wellness, your work routines, and just your daily responsibilities. You might find yourself restructuring your health practices, your work environment, or your approach to providing service to others. It's a time to build sustainable habits, potentially dealing with health challenges that ultimately lead to more holistic self care and professional efficiency. So, anytime there's a 6th house transit, it's always going to be about your health. And especially with Saturn here, Saturn is a malefic. So, this is just a time to be really mindful and aware and to make sure that you're doing the right thing for you, and you'll know what that is. For Aquarius ascendant, this is a Saturn transit in your second house. Saturn is remodeling your house of personal finances, your values, your self-worth. This transit brings a serious approach to your financial security and your personal resources. You might experience financial challenges that teach you about more responsibility, how to be more responsible with money management, and it's a time to restructure your relationship with material possessions, building a more stable and authentic sense of personal value that goes beyond monetary measures. Very important. All right, water ascendants. This is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. This Saturn transit is going to be in your Dharma house. So for Cancer ascendant, this will be your ninth house. Saturn is remodeling your house of higher learning, philosophy, and long distance travel. This transit challenges your belief system or your belief systems, educational pursuits, and your worldview overall. You might feel a strong urge to deepen your understanding of the world, potentially pursuing formal education or serious spiritual study. It's a time to restructure your philosophical approach, bringing more discipline and authenticity to your quest for meaning and personal growth. Scorpio ascendant, this Saturn transit is in your fifth house. Saturn is remodeling your house of creativity, romance, and self-expression. This transit brings a serious approach to your creative pursuits, your romantic relationships, and your personal joy. You might experience limitations in romantic connections or creative endeavors that ultimately help you develop a more authentic form of self-expression. It's a time to restructure how you approach pleasure, creativity, and personal passion, finding depth over superficiality. Pisces ascendant, of course, this Saturn transit is going into your first house. Saturn is remodeling your house of self, identity, and your personal presentation. This is perhaps the most transformative transit as Saturn directly impacts your core sense of self. You'll be called to build a more mature, authentic version of yourself, potentially experiencing challenges that strip away old identity patterns. It's a profound period of personal reconstruction, asking you to take full responsibility for who you are and how you present yourself to the world. All right, now we're going to look at Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter transits the sidereal sign of Gemini on May 14th, and it will enter Cancer in October for about a month or so, and then it turns direct again, and then turns retrograde, and then turns direct again, re-entering Gemini. So it's a little bit of a tricky transit with Jupiter, but today we're just going to look at his transit into Gemini direct. Okay. So Jupiter enters the sign of Gemini on May 14th, where he spends most of the year. Jupiter usually spends about a year in a sign, give or take a month or so, where he may travel retrograde and therefore spend more time in that month. But it generally takes about 12 years for Jupiter to travel through the whole zodiac. So Jupiter is known as the Great Benefic. He's known as Guru. Jupiter brings expansion and blessings and abundance wherever he transits and aspects. And as a planet, Jupiter represents higher knowledge and wisdom. And as a ruler of Sagittarius and Pisces, Jupiter has a close association with the matters of the ninth house of beliefs and the 12th house of surrender. Gemini is an air sign ruled by Mercury. It is the third sign of the zodiac, and it's associated with the third house of effort and courage. Gemini also deals with communication, ideas, intellect, and it's our first social relationships. It's the sign that follows Taurus, where we have our family values, and it's the first social sign where we have our first relationships, like with our cousins and siblings and that sort of thing. So Jupiter in Gemini brings our thinking mind and our moral compass together. Mercury benefits greatly from Jupiter's presence, expanding our ideas and how we communicate. There is a risk of overstimulation and oversharing, and Mercury has a neutral effect on Jupiter. This adds a curiosity and adaptability to the wisdom that is coming in. So I wanted to look at a little history of Jupiter, just like we did Saturn. And the last time Jupiter was in Sidereal Gemini was from August 2013 to the summer of 2014. I think it's around June or July. Yes, from June. So there were several significant developments in the field of communications. These advancements marked a period of rapid technological change and increased effort towards expanding access of communication networks. So think about cell phones, mobile technology, internet. Edward Snowden revealed the extent of the National Security Agency's data collection from major internet companies and mobile carriers. This new knowledge expanded the collective awareness of privacy in our personal communications. Very important. There was also an expansion in global connectivity with mobile broadband significant growth, especially in developing countries. There were advancements in wireless technology as well. Researchers in China set a new speed record for the LTE, while Samsung tested a new technology called 5G. Sound familiar? In early 2014, the Federal Communications Commission launched voluntary experiments that gathered data on the impact of expanding from a traditional telephone service to the newer technologies. So those were a few interesting things that took place. And so now let's look at that Jupiter return that we're about to experience. Jupiter in Gemini, the Jupiter returns are massive, pun intended, right? So his transit through a sign is like adding a turbo button to that area of life. The themes will just grow and grow, expanding our knowledge and our understanding around that area of life all at the same time. So the completion of Jupiter's 12-year cycle comes with wisdom and grace, abundance, and a new light that's shed on that area. Where Gemini sits in your chart will give insight into the area of life that is receiving Jupiter's gifts. So just like I did with Saturn, I'm going to look at the ascendants by element. So we'll take a look at the fire ascendants first. So this is a fresh time, a fresh start for Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. It's a time for new ideas to inspire and motivate for your next journey, the next step. For Aries, this is a Jupiter in Gemini transit in your third house. So Jupiter is expanding your interests and your curiosities, as well as your courage to share and communicate your ideas to others. You have some big ideas, and it will be impossible to keep them to yourself. So Jupiter is expanding your efforts and interests in a big way. The connection between your ideas and beliefs have never been stronger. So you may feel like your mind is just going 100 miles an hour with ideas and things you want to say and do, and that's okay. You have an excuse. Jupiter is in your third house, so go for it. For Leo ascendant, this is an 11th house transit. Jupiter is expanding your awareness like never before. You are in for big wins and enjoying the fruits of your labor. Enjoy this time, but don't forget to be humble and generous. Share your abundances with those that helped you along the way. Only take in what you can give away later. See, the attachments that you create now will take effort to maintain. So otherwise you'll have to let them go. So keep that in mind as the new information is coming in. For Sagittarius ascendant, this is a 7th house transit. Jupiter in Gemini is expanding your relationships and your commitments. If you're married, this is a time where you gain a better understanding of your spouse. And if you are single, you may get married during this time. Either way, there will be new information surrounding your relationships, your romantic, platonic, professional relationships, all of them. This is an excellent time to make new business connections as well. And just to grow your business, it's really good for entrepreneurs. My Earth ascendant people, we've got Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. This is a Jupiter transit in your Artha houses. So it's going to be expanding your wealth. It's going to be expanding your possessions and your resources and your values. Okay. You are working hard and you're growing your wealth during this transit. And what you accumulate now will determine how fulfilled you feel in the next transit. So for Taurus ascendant, this is a second house transit. Jupiter is expanding your family, your resources, and your values. Second house also rules speech. So you may be extra outspoken during this time and extra communicative. These transits can be quite prosperous as Jupiter expands your finances, resources like food, jewelry, and your overall income. Virgo in or for Virgo ascendant, excuse me, this is your 10th house transit. Jupiter is expanding your career and public reputation. This is a time to be on the world stage, to grow, to spread your wings, be the person you have grown up to be. This is your time to shine. Jupiter in the 10th house. This is really powerful. Definitely going to be growth in your career, in your professional sphere. So be on the lookout for that. Promotions, that sort of thing, into leadership as well. For Capricorn ascendant, this is your 6th house. Jupiter is increasing your responsibilities in daily life and expanding your health routines. Jupiter's optimistic outlook helps to overcome any obstacles or challenges that may have exasperated in the process. So two things can happen at once, right? Jupiter can expand something, make something bigger that you may not want to expand. So it's going to be really important to make sure you have those boundaries set. Things don't get too out of control. There's not too much excess or indulgence. For my air ascendants, this is a time of having fun and fulfilling your desires. Jupiter in Gemini is transiting through your Dharma house. So just remember, you may have to let it all go in the next transit. So keep that in mind, the new things that you begin in this period. So for Gemini ascendant, this is a first house transit. Jupiter is expanding you. This transit is all about you, your physical experience in this lifetime, and you may feel a newfound sense of hope and optimism, like you have a new outlook on life. For Libra ascendant, this is a 9th house transit for you. Jupiter rules the 9th house naturally. It's naturally ruled by Sagittarius. Jupiter is expanding your beliefs with higher knowledge and wisdom. So you may have a lot of books. You may start to read more. You may attend a class or pick up some educational classes. You may start university, those sorts of things. You may come across a new teacher or a new person in your life that is like a mentor or a guide. So be on the lookout for that. Aquarius ascendant, this is a 5th house transit. Jupiter is expanding your creative expression as an artist or as a mother. This time brings an abundant imagination, and even exaggeration or speculation can also be increased. So the 5th house is a house of your heart's desire, also where romance lives. So a new romantic interest could come into your life, or you might just find yourself having more fun than usual. You may be adverse to working too hard during this time and could have spells of laziness or boredom. And if that's the case, now you know why. You can blame it on Jupiter in your 5th house. All right, let's look at the water ascendants. So water ascendants, this is a moksha house transit for you. Jupiter is going to be expanding your transformations. So Cancer, this is a 12th house transit. Jupiter is expanding your spirituality. He's naturally associated with the 12th house as ruler of Pisces. So Jupiter feels at home here, and the possibility of expansion is really limitless. This is a great time to grow your meditation practice or routine, increase your connection to the divine. Jupiter is bringing great blessings through solitude and surrender to a higher vibration. For Scorpio ascendant, this is an 8th house transit. Jupiter is expanding your ability to transform and to grow spiritually. There's a new perspective of hope that helps your vulnerabilities and your fears become a catalyst for personal growth and not getting stuck in old ways of thinking and progressing to that next bigger, better phase of your life that is waiting for you. Pisces ascendant, this is a 4th house transit for you. Jupiter is your ruling planet, and he's increasing your emotional connections and bringing hope to your insecurities. Your heart feels enormous and full of love. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, the natural 4th house, and this is expanding your capacity to nurture and care for what's closest to your heart. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the transit of Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo. Rahu in Aquarius is symbolized by radical social change, technological disruption, and unconventional thinking. Themes around collective movements, breaking traditional structures, and sudden, unexpected transformations can also be seen. Aquarius is associated with the 11th house of gains, achievements, and social groups. It's the house where authority becomes discipline and our identity is shaped through acceptance and validation. As an air sign, Aquarius communications take the form of a policy or a rule. This is the limiting nature of Saturn to bring order to large groups. Opposite this energy is Leo, ruled by the sun, where self-expression, creativity, and ego reside. So Rahu is an addictive force where the unknown is more desirable than anything else. Unprecedented times emerge as challenges are faced with ignorance and ego. An insatiable hunger for power will cloud the collective consciousness. Uncertainty and confusion surround what society considers to be acceptable behavior. Both Rahu and Aquarius represent the future, so we will see an immense increase in the way we come together as a society. Now, Ketu in Leo is uncovering the truth for all to see. Personal truths, universal truths, it's all coming out and will be judged by the chaotic order of the universal mindset, aka Aquarius. K2 represents an accumulated mastery from past lives. And just like the body holds on to something, holds on to a memory, even when the mind has let it go, K2 is very much like that detached body, holding on to ancestral knowledge, but perhaps overlooking the wisdom because of feeling so removed and detached from it. It may be something that just feels too easy and there's no challenge, so it could be overlooked. There is a key to being successful here with the Rahu and Ketu transit, and that is, with most things, is to find a balance between the two forces and to not go to the extremes that they're both capable of. So a little history of Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo. This is an 18.5-year cycle. So it takes about 18.5 months for Rahu and Ketu to transit through their sign, a full sign. And then it takes about 18.5 years for Rahu Ketu to transit around the whole zodiac through all 12 signs. This shadow axis of the moon was last seen in this position of Aquarius and Leo 18.5 years ago from November 2006 through May 2008. So think about what you were doing during that time, if you were alive or are having, if you have memories from that age. During this period, the world saw disruption around major cultural identities. Some notable headlines from this time period touch on themes of Aquarius and reflect broader societal issues and the ongoing dialogue about truth and self expression in various contexts. So, for example, in early 2007, the iPhone was introduced. This, of course, revolutionized mobile technology and completely changed our paradigm around communication. Also in 2007, Barack Obama's presidential campaign was historical, and there was a big theme around radical social change during his campaign. Between 2007 and 2008, a global financial crisis emerged, causing unexpected economic transformation that challenged traditional financial systems. In May 2008, California Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage, a landmark decision that was celebrated by the LGBTQ plus advocates and marked a significant step towards marriage equality. Those are some things that took place. What about this Rahu Ketu return? So this is the ending of an 18 and a half year cycle or a completion of an 18 and a half year cycle. So during this transit of Rahu and Aquarius, awareness is gained and is opposed to a detached identity with Ketu and Leo. We learn to separate ourselves from group thinking while simultaneously learning to yield power through social awareness. There is a dynamic between our truthful identity that follows a path of fulfillment and our identity that is validated with social labels. This is the axis of Aquarius and Leo, or also the axis of the 5th and 11th house. This is the dynamic between the two. So Saturn has recently finished his business in Aquarius. He's still there, but at the time of this transit, when Rahu and Ketu transit into their new sign, Saturn will have already transited into Pisces. So after spending 2.5 years of remodeling our collective awareness, Saturn moves out of Aquarius, and Rahu, because it moves in a retrograde motion, transits into this air sign, and it's going to generate brand new unknowns as we enter uncharted territory and basically shake up every boundary and test every limitation that was placed by Saturn during his transit in Aquarius. So it's going to be exciting times. So let's look at what this Rahu Ketu transit looks like for each ascendant. And we're going to take a look at the fire ascendants first. So Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. This is a transit in your Kama and Dharma houses. So Aries, 11th house Rahu and Aquarius shows where you are becoming more aware of how your individuality is suppressed by the expectations of society. As a Kama house, the main motivation is driven by shared experiences and understanding. Leo, as your 5th house, shows where you are learning to not take things so personally and remember your inner confidence is not reliant on validation. 5th house is a Dharma house where motivations are driven by authenticity. For Leo ascendants, this is a 7th house Rahu in Aquarius transit. And this is showing where you are having more awareness in your relationships and how they suppress your self-expression. Leo, as your 1st house, shows where you are learning to not over-express yourself. And for Sagittarius, 3rd house Rahu in Aquarius is showing where you're becoming more aware of your efforts and personal courage. Leo, as your 9th house, shows where you are learning not to waver in your beliefs and to have true authenticity with what you truly believe. For the Earth ascendants, this is for Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. This is an Artha and Moksha transit for you. So Taurus, 10th house Rahu in Aquarius, shows where you are having more awareness in your career and what you put out in the world. As your fourth house, Leo shows where you are learning to not get so emotionally connected to every idea that you have. For Virgo ascendant, this is a sixth house, Rahu and Aquarius, showing where you are having more awareness in your daily routines and health. And as 12th house, K2 and Leo shows where you are learning to not hold on to false identities. Only true authenticity will make it through this transit. Capricorn ascendant, this is a second house, Rahu and Aquarius, showing where you are having more awareness around your finances and your savings. K2 and Leo as your eighth house shows where you are learning not to hold on to old ways of thinking, old beliefs, and old emotional attachments. For the air ascendants, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, this is a transit taking place in your Dharma and Kama houses. So for Gemini ascendant, ninth house Rahu and Aquarius shows where you're having more awareness around your beliefs and higher learning, while K2 and Leo as your third house shows where you are learning not to waste your efforts on shallow pursuits. Libra, fifth house Rahu in Aquarius shows where you are having more awareness around your creativity and imagination. K2 in Leo as your 11th house shows where you are learning not to impose too many limitations on your creativity, but remained aligned with what society is willing to accept. So that is quite the balance there. Aquarius ascendant, this is Rahu in your first house. And so this is showing where you are having more awareness around your self-image and your physical existence in this lifetime. K2 in Leo as your seventh house shows where you're learning not to overcompensate in your relationships to the point of sacrificing your authentic self. For my water ascendants, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, this is a Moksha Artha transit for you. Cancer, your eighth house Rahu in Aquarius is showing where you are having more awareness around your deepest fears and insecurities. K2 in Leo as your second house show where you're learning not to lose your independence and voice on matters that you value. Scorpio ascendant, this is a fourth house Rahu and Aquarius, showing where you are having more awareness around your emotional connections and your private life. K2 in Leo as your 10th house of career shows how you are learning not to overshare your emotional insecurities, especially at work or in a professional setting. Pisces ascendant, this is a 12th house Rahu and Aquarius, showing where you are having more awareness around your expenses and the time you spend in solitude. K2 and Leo as your sixth house of health and daily routines show where you are learning not to overcompensate when trying to overcome a challenging situation or obstacle. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and especially to those who may have stuck around to the end. I hope this video was helpful for you. And as an extra bonus, I have taken this full report on my website. So if you go to lunarpersuasion.com, you can access this full report. I have it broken down for you easily to read for each ascendant. You can also look at it from your moon sign as well, but I did write this as from the ascendant. So just keep that in mind. And with that being said, hope everyone has an awesome 2025. And until then, see you later.